Welcome to Imprint, a podcast about creating a home and life you love. I'm Natalie Walton, an interior designer, stylist, and best-selling author focused on an holistic approach to homes. Each week, I'm sharing insights and interviews about the creative process to help you enhance both your interiors and well-being, as well as provide you with the tools and resources to make considered and sustainable choices with all that you create. Hello everyone, welcome to Imprint. I'm looking forward to sharing today's conversation with Louise Roche, who many of you will know through her business Villa Styling. She shares her journey of how she got started in the world of newspapers, magazines, creating catalogs for various brands, and eventually, after getting many requests, started styling and photographing small brands and their spaces and their products, and has now grown to have quite an established and sizable audience on social media and works for a range of clients, styling their spaces, photographing them, and has really made the life that she wants doing what she loves. So I hope that you enjoy my conversation with Louise. We did have a few little technical issues as we were recording. We've tried to fix those up as much as possible. So please be patient, but I'm sure that you will still enjoy our conversation and get a lot of value out of it. So please enjoy. Hello, Louise. I'm so excited to have you join me today to chat about all things styling and photography and your amazing business as well, and learn more about that. I always like to start at the beginning though and get a little bit more of an insight into your journey and whether you were creative as a child. I think there's always these threads in people's stories that kind of indicate, it now makes sense. All the pieces of the puzzle fit together. So can you share a little bit about where you grew up, the type of home that you grew up in, and if you were creative as a child?
Oh, thank you, Natalie. It's such a pleasure to be on your podcast. I'm such a huge fan, and I listen to all of your podcasts, and you have so many amazing people. So I'm super grateful to be here today. But yes, I guess a little intro to me is that so I grew up in Brisbane. We've always lived here. We lived over the south side as such, as I call it. And then I met my husband and moved over to the north side of Brisbane now. So yes, I do quite a bit of traveling for work, which is always exciting. But I guess when I was little, I loved to draw. So I've always kind of had that, passion for art and being creative ever since I was little. I think my first ever, foray into being creative was winning a book prize at school. So I had to, draw and, illustrate and build this little book. And I guess ever since I did that, I just became obsessed with creating books and, magazines and things like that. So, I just loved creating then. So I guess, when I reached high school was like the first, we were kind of the first school that had the art and design course at schools at college, so you could go off to college and learn basically do your trade. It was very early days. I was only 15 when I went to college basically to do art and design, because back then you could start school really young, and my mum popped me off to school when I was very, very tiny, and you're allowed to do it then. So I was a year younger than everyone else in my grade, so I was only 16 when I finished grade 12. So yes, I did those last 2 years at the Queensland College of Art while I was at high school. So I was only 15 and 16, and I'd already done a course called CAD. So we were doing drawing and photography and all of those things. And I basically just lived and breathed art then. It was just a given, I guess, that I would do something creative from there. And it was just, I guess, a matter of, deciding what I wanted to do then. When I finished high school, I kind of, it was kind of, guess it was early days too. Everything was done by hand. So, we're still learning to, put things together, the old school way, paste up and that kind of thing. So it kind of wasn't kosher, I guess, then for a young girl of my age to go out and just be an artist. My mum was like, oh, you're not going to make much money, doing that kind of thing. So you better get a real job as such. So my mum was like, oh, kind of pushed me a bit to do that, which was super cool at the time. I thought, oh no, I've got to get a job that earns money. So I was super, super lucky. My mum and dad kind of just gave me some extra money, and we went and did a 1-year course at a commercial art training centre in Brisbane, and there I did all sorts of design. So we learnt advertising, commercial illustration, campaign building, and all of that kind of thing. So that's where I learnt about marketing and business branding and all of that. And again, we didn't have the internet then. We didn't even have a computer when I was at college. We had just we basically sat in a room and we did, everything through books. You go to the library and find design books and be inspired by those. And you had, amazing people come and visit you and, tell you all about their creative journey and that kind of thing, at college. So, we're constantly inspired there. But I had absolutely no training whatsoever in anything digital. It was all done by hand. So I did that year there, and then I was just lucky enough that I got offered a job upstairs at the newspaper. There was a newspaper in the same building in Spring Hill as the Commercial Art Training Centre, and they sent the, I guess, top two students at the time up to be interviewed, and I was lucky enough to score the job. So I went straight from, at the age of 17, going straight into working for a newspaper. So it was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited. But I went basically, from going, just, living and breathing art, and then going straight into, pumping out a newspaper. So I was essentially the last person in the chain. So I had to wait until the, writers had written the story and the girls had typeset them, and the photographers had taken their photos. They come in, then I paste them all down on the board. Then I go in the film room, make the film, and then I jump in my Datsun and drive them down to the printer. So we used to stay there for, all hours, until I basically couldn't go home until the, paper was finished. So it was, some big days. So early days, I kind of got thrown into the, crazy world of publishing and the crazy deadlines and all of that. And I just became obsessed, really. So, I guess after that, then I just went basically from one position to the next. I think I was there probably 2-3 years. And then computers started to get a little bit more, a lot of that was still done by hand. And then we had like old Corel Draw and Quark Express and all of those kind of things started to pop up in the industry. So I kind of learnt all of those things the hard way and on the job and that kind of thing. So it was, I felt like I spent my whole career, I guess, learning on the job with all these new things popping up, technology wise. It was like, oh, we were right, the last set of people, I guess, to do things the old fashioned way. And then our first couple of 2 years on, in our career, that whole industry changed overnight. It just became all digital, printing changed, I went from, doing it all by paste up to learning, exactly how to do it all on the job. And it was a lot of hours and very stressful at times, but I guess I thrived on, one, being creative, and two, to make these crazy deadlines. And I guess it's kind of shaped, what I do today in a way, and, what I love and I guess how I thrive. So, and I guess I did lots of publications. So I basically, from there, I just loved magazines and that kind of thing. So I went and did some trade, went and worked for some trade magazines for a while. And then from there, I used to actually work for News Limited for a while. So yeah, it was interesting to be part of that group at the time, and they were going through some massive changes and things then as well here in Brisbane. So I know it was, obviously a very different world to the Sydney Sydney world, but it was crazy up here as well as things changed, and then I went and did. From there, I went to over into like corporate catalog design. So I kind of stuck with making, because I just loved making books and things like that. So I went into to making catalogs then, and then I fell more into the marketing and branding for businesses and retail. So I probably spent about 10 years in that side of marketing essentially. So holding creative roles and building catalogs for retailers, and I guess it was when I started working for a local homewares company, which was quite big, and they're still quite huge and well known today. I started doing their catalogs. I was super excited there to get in, and I was always taking photos from other people and laying them out, and making all these books and things like that, and it was just so much fun. But I guess that was my first introduction to interiors as such. It was how can we make these sheets look amazing, and how can we make this bedroom look amazing, and that was my first introduction, I guess, to studio styling, and my first introduction to Sheridan and Linen House and all of those amazing brands, and how they would produce their catalogs. I used to scour those and be inspired by those. Blogs just popped up all of a sudden, so I would spend hours scrolling the overseas blogs for inspiration for layout ideas and color themes and all of those kind of things. So I was absolutely obsessed and so passionate about making these catalogs, making people want to go and buy homewares. I was just absolutely obsessed, and I just spent so many hours. I would be in at work super early, leave super late, but we had crazy deadlines there, just back to back. We started with like 6 catalogs, and then it was just going crazy. So we did more and more catalogs per year, and it was a really, really fun time. And it was I guess at the same time it was a massive transition, because Facebook, I guess, popped up all of a sudden, and their marketing changed a little bit, and then you sort of started to see businesses go, I need a website, I need to look at retail online and all of that kind of thing. So I was in working corporate while all of these kind of changes were happening, and and I guess it was then that I met my husband there, and I was quite older by then. I was like in my early 30s when I met my husband, so we kind of met quite late, and we ended up getting married and buying a house out the north side. So that's when it was a little bit too far to drive to get to that job, and I was getting a little bit, I guess, overworked and overwhelmed by all the hours. So I decided, oh gosh, I'll, try and get another job over this side of town. So I did another 4 years, I guess, after that, at a furniture company here, doing the same thing, catalogs, organizing shoots and that kind of thing. And then I guess it was then that, when we moved over here and we bought our first house, and I, started, our house was quite basic. It still is. It's nothing's fancy. We're still actually in our very first home. We haven't moved anywhere since. But I started designing, our house is super simple, and you could just my husband said to me, oh look, you can do whatever you want with it. So I was like, oh okay, no worries. So we decided, we'll start renovating it. Downstairs was just blank slate. So I was like, oh, one day we just decided we were going to put all these walls up and make downstairs, you know, an office space and that kind of thing. So yeah, we just made that happen. And I was still working then full time, and I decided, oh, you know, I'll just take some photos of my office, and Instagram had just kind of popped up. And I thought, oh, you know, I could see, you know, people were sharing, you know, lots of things, and, you know, I was kind of drifted over to there to look for inspiration, you know, for the catalogs and that kind of thing. And I thought, oh, you know, I'll just join up, and, you know, I'll pop a photo of my office up on there. And, you know, next thing you know, my office just went viral, I guess. And that was like a million years ago, it feels like now.
Is that photo still on your Instagram feed?
It probably is, yeah. Yes, it absolutely is.
I'll definitely have to go and check it out. It's interesting what you say about all of those working in the newspaper. I mean, I can relate to that because that's my kind of background. And then, you know, all those studio shoots. And I think that it does teach you, and you sort of flag that it really does teach you to work under pressure, and really the value of having a deadline. I sort of say this a lot to people that, you know, I thrive on deadlines, and if I want to get something done, then, you know, I need to give myself a deadline, and how much you can actually get done in any given period of time. You know, you can, really, you know, can just get through such a volume of work. So it's interesting to see that has been like a really big thread in your journey. So continue on. What happened after this image went viral?
Well, I just started to get lots of followers, I guess. And it was like, oh my gosh, I got so excited. I couldn't, you know, and then, it just kind of went from one thing to the next there. And people were like, oh my God, I love your office. And they were sharing it. And they're like, oh, I just love how you shot that and that kind of thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is, you know, it was just so much fun, you know, talking to people, you know, and I guess, you know, being a creative as well, I guess I spent so much of my time just throwing myself, I guess, at my job and the hours and that kind of thing. And I guess you do spend a lot of time, you know, on your own, being creative and that kind of thing. So I guess it was nice for someone like me who's also quiet, I guess, you know, not incredibly social, you know, I'm not a social butterfly as such. So, you know, I'm not always out and about, but it was nice, you know, to meet people through Instagram and talk to them then, you know, and then, people started saying, oh, you know, can you come and do, you know, shoot my space, or, you know, can you shoot my product and that kind of thing. And then, I was still obviously, you know, I was incredibly nervous, like everyone is, I guess, when they first kind of go out on their own. I was like, oh my gosh, you know, the need was there, I guess, and people loved what I was doing. But I was also scared because we just bought our first home, you know, and I had, you know, I'd you know, basically handed over all of my life savings just to buy this house. We didn't have much behind us. You know, we're just getting our feet, you know, and the house and that kind of thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, do I do this? You know, do I take a punt? I didn't actually ever really have a thought of, oh, you know, I never had a passion or a dream to go out and work for myself. It kind of just happened, I guess, by people asking me, oh, can you come and do that for me? And I just kind of just thought, oh, you know what? People keep asking me, I'm like, and I was taking more and more sick days, and I felt horrible for doing that. So I was like, oh my gosh, I just need to do this. So I just, bit the bullet one day. And it was funny. One of my, and I guess, through Instagram, very early days, one of my first clients was Shannon from the Dharma Door. And I met her, oh gosh, when she lived here in Brisbane, and it was so lovely to meet her then. And she entrusted me with styling and shooting and doing her marketing. So it was kind of really cool because I got to do all the things that I loved for her and her beautiful products. And you know, she's such a beautiful person. She had stunning products, and it was such a good way to, I guess, you know, take a leap out on my own and do it. So off I went, and I still, I did still, I have to say, I still did take I still had I was lucky enough, and another girl reached out to me and said, oh, I work for another furniture company here in Brisbane. We need a stylist. Do you want to come and style our catalogs, in our studio one day a week? So I was like, oh, okay, well, that's going to give me the, I guess, soft step out to being on my own. So I gave up my full-time job, accepted that, did one day a week, well, sometimes two. So sometimes I was doing 2 days a week. At first, for probably the first 4 to 5 years that I went out on my own, I was still doing usually, maybe 2 days a week, doing styling for their catalogs. So that was a good, I guess it took the pressure off a little bit. If I didn't always have the work coming in, I could, I at least had that income each week. So, and it was very similar to my income that I was getting working 5 days a week for someone else anyway. So I thought, oh gosh, this is so good. But the crazy thing was that I never actually once had to stress, even though I did always stress about what was going to happen next week and as you do, you go from having set, this rhythm of, knowing what you're doing week to week, every week for the next year. But then all of a sudden it was an unknown, and it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? How am I going to support us? What am I going to do? But yeah, I did the 2 days, and that was always a good comfort zone, I guess. But then it just snowballed, I guess, and I didn't really get time to, I guess, put anything in place in a way, I guess, business wise, if that makes sense. I just kind of went out there and did it, and just, one client led to another client. And I was doing the 2 days or 1 day styling there, and then just flat out around it, shooting or editing or styling, around that. And I guess it just hasn't stopped.
So I want to ask you, before we kind of get into too much detail about all of that, because I definitely want to, learn more about how it's grown. So you went from doing kind of graphic design style work, from what I understand, to then working and doing, some styling and helping on these shoots, to then doing photography. So did you learn photography when you were at art school, or is that something that you learned? I mean, even when you took that photo for your Instagram feed, was that on your phone, or was that with a real, like a proper digital SLR? And I'm just curious. So I'm curious about the photography piece. And then also, how did you work out how much to charge? Because like you said, and, I hear this a lot from students in my course, is that, when you're starting out, and obviously, as you flagged, you had some financial pressures as well, so it wasn't like you could just go out there and charge nothing. But at the same time, I understand that when you're starting out, it can be, sometimes challenging to think, well, what am I going to charge people for this? So how did you work those two? So first of all, about the photography, and then how did you work out what to charge?
Yeah. So when I was at college, we did photography old school ways. So we learnt, we had very basic cameras then, and we did film and that kind of thing. And that's I guess how I got my first job, essentially, was doing film. So I kind of took that piece, and then I had a lot of the jobs, obviously being in the newspaper, then were taking other people's photos and editing them, and making these amazing layouts and catalogs and that kind of thing. And I kind of it became very, I guess, looked really hard at the photos and the photography and the quality and all of those kind of things, because it was also important to what I was trying to achieve, with the magazines or with the catalogs, and how important, the right styling and the right shots and the lighting and all of that kind of thing, is to branding, and, how it makes a client, a prospective, buyer respond and want to buy things. And it always, sometimes used to frustrate me no end, because you get photos that were quite hard to work with, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And, I always loved taking photos, and I guess that was just part of the creative process. And I'd always had cameras and that kind of thing. And yeah, when I bought the house, I had bought a new camera then, and the first photos that I took of my studio were on probably one of Canon's first DSLRs, I think. I did have, they were quite grainy though. Still, they were very very basic, I guess, when you look back at those photos. And even the other day I was looking through trying to find some really old photos for a client who finally, after all these years, doing her website and things, and I was like, oh my gosh, some of these photos are, a few years old, and you go right back to the DSLRs even, that we used to use, like the old 5D and that kind of thing. It was like, oh my gosh, it's such a big difference, to the mirrorless ones that we have now. And it's like, oh my gosh, and we used to think that was good then. So it's always been quite fun. But yeah, the first I guess, and then I did photography in that at college, and put it to the side, I guess, for a while, and then just picked it up again, and like I said, taught myself essentially how to use the DSLR, and the digital camera and the mirrorless and all of that myself, because it was all the old school ones by film, where we just used to pop the Kodak film in the camera and that. So I had all the formal training from that perspective, but had to learn teach myself at home how to wrangle the digital side of it. And I guess having that all that experience, I guess, in laying out magazines from the other side, and looking at photos from that perspective, gave me, I guess, a better, a way of looking at doing my own photography then, because I would look at every space essentially as, oh, well, we could put copy up here, or we could put copy there. So I tend to look at the shots, and I can very quickly walk into a room and go, oh, well, that's a strong shot there, that's not so strong over there, but this is, the 10 or 15 great shots that I know are going to work and make, be great for an editorial, or just great shot that someone's going to love, more so than this one over there. And I guess it's all those years of sitting behind the desk, looking so intently at all of these and laying out all of these layouts and going, no, well, that one doesn't work, this one works, but that doesn't work. So it's and I guess then the hardest thing I guess, being a photographer then and going out like I did was working out what to charge, because it is, I guess, still a great unknown, and because I've always been on my own, as such, I didn't ever talk to anyone. I just did it. And it was, and I still to this day go, oh my God, I mean, some clients say to me, oh, you're too cheap, your pricing's not, you should be, for all the time and effort that you put in, you should be charging more, and that kind of thing. And I guess, it's always been a challenge to know, and I guess because I'm always used to going, oh, well, this is what I think people can afford, more so, I guess, than what I value my work at, I guess, in a way. I think sometimes it's, and I guess for me, that's kind of been a learning curve too, especially lately. I've kind of gone, oh, I think now with all the things that I've achieved, that I could probably pull my prices up a little bit and still be happy, I guess, that people would be willing to pay that. But I guess, like everyone, I've kind of run that roller coaster of going, what should I charge? It's always a very tricky one, I guess, as you know.
Did you start out charging an hourly rate and then move to a package? And if you now offer as a package, can you just sort of shine a little bit of a light on what you include in that package as part of it?
Yeah, so I have always had just kind of a package thing. So more so rather than doing the hourly rate, I've always pretty much just had a half day rate or a full day package essentially. So I offer actually quite a lot of photos, I guess, in a way, for those packages because I've always been about the value. But yeah, I guess just lately too, and I guess Instagram and I guess so, well, not so much Instagram, but social media, I kind of felt dictated that a little bit as well because people kind of said, oh no, I need I've got to have 30 photos, that's only going to be 30 days of avatar, 30 posts or things like that. So I've always kind of tailored my shoots, my packages to be 30 or 60 photos or 90 photos, for some of the bigger house shoots and that kind of thing. So yeah, I've always had kind of those packages in place. But then over the years, as I've done bigger, more commercial jobs, I've done the hourly rate. Then if I felt that suited the project better, yeah, but most times the package thing suits most people, and then yeah, as you know, editorial and that kind of thing, they kind of set the rate. So you have your day rate there, or your half day rate there. But yeah, the pricing thing is always I guess the struggle to know. I guess I've never actually, I actually really wouldn't have a clue what anyone else charges either, to do a similar thing. I've just, put my price, I guess, as it was for what I thought, for what I valued my time at and what I thought it was worth to each client. And yeah, I do specific quotes for some jobs because, when you have, some might just be a walk-in and shoot, but very rarely. Most people are coming to me to ask to help them with the styling as well as the photography as well. So I've kind of, the packages suit the basic ones where, we might just, I might just walk in and, just do a few little styling things here and there. And then do the shoot as well. So those packages are tailored to cover that kind of thing. So with interior designers and things, we they've had, they'll have generally done the actual design work and that kind of thing, I guess. And, they'll come to us and say, oh, can you, grab our, project imagery and that kind of thing. And yeah, I guess it's always been, I guess, tricky in a way to sometimes find that happy balance of me not over styling, I guess, and taking away from what they've done. And I guess it has been a little bit of education, I guess, on from both avenues, I guess, to go, okay, well, you bring in, you do the styling, how you would do it, because that's the service if you're offering it to your client, and I'm happy to come in, and tweak that styling, to the photos to make it as everyone does. But I guess, sometimes you've had those ones where they'll have taken everything out and then go, oh, can you put everything back in? And it's like, oh, well, that's kind of not necessarily how we really should be doing this, because then it's my work, not your work. So, it's always that's for me, it has been a bit of a learning curve over the time as well, to kind of educate, I guess, the client, to go, especially if they're a designer, because it still has to be true to their skills and what they've created for their client, and as you do, like you do for an editorial, you're there to enhance the space and add the extra layers and those kind of things. And, and that's, I guess it's been interesting then to try and work out then, okay, well, what do you charge then for that level of service as well? Because sometimes you'll get there and there will actually be nothing there, or a lot less than what you thought, and you've got to then put in a lot more than what you thought you would have to, and you're spending a lot more time working on the styling during the day, that rather than focusing on the photography as such. And I guess for me, that's been a big learning curve then, because to do the two to at once on my own was always quite, I guess, a big day. It was quite a challenge. But I loved it, and I still got the great outcome at the end. But it would often, I guess, come at a lot of work either prior, running around grabbing things and taking them in. I guess over the time the industry's changed a lot more now, and designers are a lot more excited and more involved in doing all of those finishing touches. So it's been good lately to have more that will have all of the layers there, and then I can just, bring in a couple of extra little vases or a couple of extra cushions or things like that, just to, pad them out and to get those editorial style, shots that they're looking for their folios. So that's been interesting. But working out what to charge for the time, I guess, to do that is interesting, because you don't just have the time that you are there on site. As you know, you've got the hours that go in prior to look through and go, okay, well, I might need, this extra vase or whatever. And, I'm lucky that I have, I guess, over the years too, built up a massive prop library. So I have a very big shed of props that we can call on. And I do have, I feel just about something for every look now. So it is quite easy for me just to backfill those little holes, in the jobs as we go. And I guess, there's those jobs for the interior designers. There's the ones for the builders where, they just want the more architectural style ones. But, I still like to take along, the extra vases and, some greenery, and, still give them those little bit of lifestyle elements, because I think, that's what works on social media. People want to see those layers of lived in, those layers of living essentially. And I guess I've always found that that's what's worked on socials. So it's been, I guess, a bit of a learning curve over the years to work with different clients in different perspectives like that, and build those layers and work out what works and what doesn't work. It's interesting.
So what would you say then? Could you roughly break down, I know you've mentioned you started with Darmador, they're a product-based business. You've mentioned working for interior designers. I know you get some of your work featured in publications. What percentage, you've just mentioned builders, roughly, what is the breakdown, do you think, percentage wise, for different styles of clients of the work that you do?
So I guess the breakdown of our workload would be about, over the last probably 12 months, it's been about 30% editorial work. And then I have just recently done a interior styling project, which was just been furniture and accessories. And I've done probably 2 or 3 projects like that this year. So they take up quite a lot of time, as you know, to focus on those and work through, all of the purchasing and then installing. So I've done one big one for a commercial client, which will be out next year, which is super exciting. And I've done a couple for some local homeowners, which were really amazing. And they were featured in editorials as well. And then the rest of the work is, working for interior designers, builders. And then we also still do a small portion of product shoots. I'm trying to kind of steer away a little bit from the smaller product shoots. I guess early days I used to do lots of those, which were fun, but now I guess my focus has been more so on bigger commercial product shoot. I have some clients that I used to work for in a corporate context who are now clients of mine in my own business that I do product shoots for, which are furniture related, which is amazing. To still can work for them and support their businesses from a branding and marketing perspective. And then there's also another, homewares retailer that we've had on board for basically 8 years, who are based in Western Australia. And every year they send us their entire catalogue of homewares, which are cushions and linens. They send them over to us from WA, and we shoot their winter and summer catalogue. And, it's so rewarding to work with clients who trust us, and are loyal to us, I guess. Who just know that we know their brand. We produce, full-on catalogue shoots for them. And it's just easy, for them, to send it all to us, and we look after everything, and it just goes back, and it's just super simple, easy process. So yeah, I guess because I have got, so many return and consistent clients that are product based, now I guess I'm a little bit more selective in taking on new clients in that respect, because I kind of find once they do come on board, they'll stick with us. I've kind of been humming and hurrying, I guess, as to how big I guess I grow my business in a way, because it's always been just myself who's done, I'll do the admin, and I'll do the editing, and I'll do the organizing, and then the styling, and then the shooting. And it is pretty much 24/7 job for me. I don't really get much rest, and I haven't still. And a lot of people are always like, and a lot of amazing clients that I have are like, you really need some more help, Louise, and that kind of thing. So I guess when I first got my, first chance at doing an editorial shoot for Home Beautiful, the lovely girls there hooked me up with Kylie Jacks, and we did our first shoot together. And as you know, Kylie's a stylist and a writer. And, we just hit it off, and we're amazing friends now as well. She's been amazing, in that she's come on board with me in a way, in the capacity of, we do the editorial shoots together. And then when we get these big commercial product shoots now, we'll work together on those, and that kind of takes the pressure off for me, because I know that Kylie understands, my business direction and the kind of styling and the layers. And we are basically two peas in a pod anyway when we're on site. I'll have already thought of something. I'm like, oh yeah, that, I don't even have to say that needs to go to the left or right or anything anymore. Kylie's already one step ahead of me. So, we are a great little team, and, I love working with her. So yeah, Kylie's been amazing to come join me on my journey for editorial, for product shoots, and then project shoots for builders. When we need to take in quite a lot of layers, Kylie can do a lot of the running around and help organize all the styling and that kind of thing. Between us both, we'll organize everything, can get there and get it done. But otherwise, yeah, I still pretty much then still spend 24/7 doing all the admin and that kind of side of it, just because I really need to learn, I guess, to say thank you, but no thanks sometimes. And I still take on, I guess, far more than I can handle for, myself and Kylie, and then my friend Joanne come back from overseas recently, which was perfect timing, because I was doing a really big styling job, and she jumped back in to help, get that over the line. It was down the Gold Coast, and I'm in Brisbane, and I'm here running around, trying to keep on top of all the shoot bookings and things that I had, and do this crazy big styling job at the same time. And she was amazing. She, drove backwards and forwards to that house, and, did all the logistics side of that for me. And, and it's just us three really now, in a very haphazard, I guess, way. Like I said, I fell into doing this business, and I am the creative person, and I love spending all that time creating, and my brain just tick, tick, tick is all the time on, yep, we've got this job, on Friday. So, I'll have sorted all that out, run around, done all that kind of thing. I'm probably not the best at keeping on top of the communication side of it, though. I tend to go, okay, well, I've got these things on this week. So I talk to those clients get those jobs done. And, sometimes you have these bigger ones on and I can't always be on the phone or the emails and that as much as I like. And I feel like, yeah, sometimes that kind of side of it is always a struggle. And it's hard to keep up with everyone at once. And I do feel the pressure from that perspective, I have to say, a lot. And I guess there are only so many hours a day, as we all know. And I do work around the clock. And if I'm in the car, sometimes, we drive a fair way, from North Brisbane. A lot of the work is down the Gold Coast or in Byron or up the Sunshine Coast, primarily, which has always been good. I mean, I love doing the drive, and I guess the drive then is my sometimes 1 hour or 2 hours out of a crazy day where my brain just gets to take 5 and listen to some music or some podcasts and chill out for a minute. So that's pretty much, I guess, my crazy creative life. And I guess a lot of people, like people who, I guess, clients that I've worked with for a long time understand that and appreciate that and just roll with it, which I'm super grateful for.
You definitely need to get yourself an assistant, like an administrative assistant. We'll chat after this podcast. I'll tell you what you need to do. But before we get into the final questions, I guess, you are, you're in out there doing the styling work, doing the photography work. What advice would you give to somebody who wanted to work in the world of styling? What would be your advice to them?
I guess just to get out there and give it a go. It is so rewarding to do what you love and get to do it every day. You meet so many amazing people. And I have pretty much always said yes to everything. I've done the hard yards over the years. I spent 20 years in corporate, learning so many different things. And yeah, while it wasn't my job to do styling specifically at the time, I was so passionate about it, and I pushed to learn more about it. I just engulfed my life, I guess, in learning about it, researching it, giving it a go, and I think if you've got the passion, the passion will take you, where you want to go, I think. And yeah, you've just got to get out there and give it a go. And yeah, you just don't know who you might meet one day that, gives you a leg up. I remember for a long time, I always had a dream of, being, while I was always in, doing publications and that, in a commercial aspect, I had a dream of, I had done plenty of press ads, for Home Beautiful or Real Living and that years ago. I had done that. I was like, oh yeah, I'd see my work in there. But my dream was to have an actual shoot. Either it was going to be my house or someone else's house. And I had that dream, and I stuck with it. And I pestered the editor, I guess, back in the early days. I had a beautiful home that I had shot, and I was like, this has to be, I can just see it on the pages. And all it took was the one yes. And the lovely editor at the time, he said, Louise, you can do this. You've got it. Just go and shoot it, and we'll run it. And I was so grateful. And yeah, I never looked back. And I guess that was like the one time that I kind of backed myself and just thought, this one's definitely it, and I pushed, and I was, it's just so happy when it came through. But yeah, like everything, there were the days then that I wanted to give up, and there was the hard things when things, didn't. I guess too, there's been the expectations, I guess, the ones that you put on yourself, and then the ones that clients put on you, too. And you can only ever do your best with what you have. I think at the moment there might be, I think, a lot of pressure. You see all these beautiful, stunning homes, in the very high-end market, which is great. But you know what? I never started out capturing those kind of homes. I was just capturing very simple, basic homes. My home is very simple. I think there might be a little bit of a misconception out there that I have absolutely, huge home or something like that. But mine's just a very humble home in the north of Brisbane, in the least exciting suburb that you can imagine. But I made it, a little coastal oasis, I guess you could say. And I did it, in my spare time, which was often very little. We've been plugging away at this house for probably we've been here for 10 years, I think. And my own renovation and thing has just, always just been done on the weekends when my husband, got into it. And then I've literally made, design decisions on the fly. I'll walk in after a shoot and he's knocked a wall out when I was lying in bed one day and said, oh, we should cut an arch through and join these two rooms together. And then he's literally done that the next morning. Like, I've come back from a shoot and there it is, done. So our own house and what happens here has just happened on a dime and on a whim without much really thought.
Yeah. Oh no, it's so good. I mean, it's so good to hear. All right. So I just want to get into the final questions that I ask everyone. So the first one is, which 5 words best describe you?
I would say passion. Yes, I would say that I am passionate, driven, and a quiet achiever, I guess.
What's the best lesson you've learned?
I guess just sticking with it and not to give up. I guess, I've just, you know, worked hard and worked a lot of hours through a lot of things, and I think, oh my gosh, the lessons I've learned from doing this on my own. I guess there's always, I guess that thing where I've never spoken to another photographer to, find out what they charge or things like that. I feel like we've learnt all the lessons on the job the hard way over the years. But yes, it's the lessons have been huge sometimes, and you just thank them and go, okay, well, I've learnt now. I won't do that way again. I'll do this process a different way. But I guess that's one of the hardest things of being going out on your own. It is quite isolating, I guess. I've never been on site with another photographer. To see how they do things. It's only kind of actually just recently that I opened my studio here at home. I made my own little studio space and opened it to other creatives. And it's been really interesting and exciting to meet other photographers and kind of actually opened up the opportunity where I could step back from being a photographer in a couple of instances where they've asked me to do the styling in my own space for their product, and they've had their own photographer here who's then looked at lighting and that kind of thing. Only just in the last couple of weeks I've done that in that capacity, and it was really exciting to see and talk to another photographer who's been in campaign marketing and worked on some amazing jobs and that over the years herself. He's around my age, he's experienced similar things. So I've done everything over the years on my own, and kind of I feel like all of a sudden I get to my mid-40s or late 40s now and go, I'm to kind of feel like I'm finally getting some of the things that I had dreamed of happening, in the business, and then finally experiencing some of the things. And I guess that's one of the biggest lessons is that, I didn't pop up yesterday. It hasn't taken, I'm not an overnight success by any means. It's been a long, hard slog, and I think you stick with it, you get where you want to get, and you get all those wins that you're hoping for. So
Well, that leads us nicely into the next question, which is what's your proudest achievement?
I guess my proudest achievement was when we got three covers in a row for Home Beautiful. So we had the November cover, the December Christmas cover, and then the January cover. That was just completely unexpected, and then it just a dream come true. Like I was like, I remember when we got our first, like when I got my first cover, and I just, I wasn't expecting it at all, and it was of course like the last image that I ever thought would make a cover shot. It was I just thought it was the funniest thing because we got to this house. It was up in Harvey Bay, and me and Kylie had driven there, and we're all loaded up, as you know, and Kylie jumped out, and I said to Kylie, oh, you want to start unloading the things, and I'll just quickly run across the road and take just the quick photo of the front facade, because that's just such a beautiful front shot, as we do. Do a portrait, do a horizontal shot. It's literally 2 seconds, and then we spent the entire rest of the day doing all the styling and inside and making all of those beautiful things.
And what's been your best decision?
Probably making my studio, my little studio it's been just amazing in the last few months. I've released that to everyone, and like I said, it's been exciting to meet different creatives and experience different things there, and it just it's just super exciting.
What are you passionate about? Oh, sorry, who inspires you? Let's go with that one first.
I couldn't say, I guess, one person, but I guess any woman who's gone out on their own, to start a business inspires me, because I know, all the struggles and all the, things that you have to go through. So I find every woman that I think I've met that's gone out and tried to start, or started and is, working through their own business is just inspiring. There's like Miriam Fanning from Mim Design. I'm a huge fan of hers, and I love listening to her on podcasts. So she's always inspired me, I guess. Every conversation she has is always just amazing. So yeah.
Great. What are you passionate about?
Just styling, creating spaces, and making things. I just love making things.
And what dream do you still want to fulfill?
I would love to be in Belle magazine or Vogue magazine. That's still on my wish list.
It'll happen. What are you reading? Do you have a book by your bedside table or coffee table book?
I do. I have The Artist's Way. I read it years and years ago, and I noticed that they just refreshed it and re-released it. So I grabbed a new copy and I'm reading it again because I just loved it so much the first time.
And what are you listening to? Which are the podcasts you like to listen to on those long drives?
Well, I love listening to yours, of course. And I love the interior design collective, IDCO, from the States. I love all the people and designers that she interviews. And then there's another one here. It's Office Talk by Dave Sharp. And that's more of an architectural design one. He's had some amazing. I've listened to. I think he interviewed Miriam Fanning, and I just love his interviews and listening. He's had a few photographers on there, so I've enjoyed listening to those on his. So they're my favorites at the moment.
And finally, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
Just to, I guess, be more assertive, I guess. And I guess I wish, I had backed myself earlier, I guess, because I waited until I was quite a lot older to do many things in life, I feel. I think that probably would be the best thing. And I think moving forward, I would, I guess taking more of a proactive approach, I guess, to doing things now rather than waiting, for things essentially to happen or that kind of thing. So I think that's the biggest advice, is that I should have, I guess, taken the leap earlier, backed myself a bit more. But don't get wrong, I still do that at times now. I go, oh no, but I have learned that I can do this and I can carry on and everything will be all right.
Well, thank you so much, Louise. It's been so great and really interesting to learn more about your journey. And you've got the beautiful images on Instagram. I'm sure many of the listeners will be familiar with your Instagram, Villa Styling. And of course, we'll put links in the show notes to all of those things. And yeah, it's just really lovely to kind of get behind the scenes to learn a bit more about you. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Natalie, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All of the links and info for this episode are at nataliewalton.com/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can get a direct download of the latest episode. And I really appreciate when you take a minute to rate and review, as well as share the love with someone you know who might benefit from this episode, or on social media. If you'd like to access a range of free resources, come visit my website, nataliewalton.com. Thank you to Jaeger Media for producing this podcast. And I would also like to acknowledge the people of the Bundjalung Nation where it was recorded, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I look forward to connecting again soon. I'm Natalie Walton, and you've been listening to Imprint.